After a long day, I felt the need to go outside. The air inside my apartment had become heavy and still, filled with the quiet hum of the day that had already passed. The light from the window was fading into a soft orange, and the city outside was slowly changing its color. It was that quiet hour between day and night, when the world seems to hold its breath. I took my light jacket from the chair, put it on, and stepped out. The door closed behind me with a soft sound. The hallway smelled faintly of dust and something warm. Maybe someone was cooking dinner on another floor. I walked down the stairs slowly, enjoying the simple rhythm of my steps. When I opened the door to the street, the cool evening air touched my face. It was fresh, clean, and full of quiet energy. The sky was deep blue now, almost violet near the horizon. The first stars were beginning to appear, small, soft lights in the calm sky. The street outside my building was nearly empty. A few windows glowed with warm yellow light, and I could hear the faint sound of a television somewhere far away. The air carried the smell of trees and distant smoke, maybe from a chimney or a nearby cafe. Everything felt calm, unhurried, as if time itself had slowed down to rest. I started walking down the familiar street. The pavement was still a little warm from the sun, but the evening breeze cooled it quickly. The street lamps were already on, their lights soft and golden, falling in gentle circles on the ground. The shadows between them were deep and peaceful, not frightening, just part of the night. I walked slowly without a goal, just letting my feet decide where to go. The sound of my steps mixed with the quiet noises of the neighborhood. A distant car, the soft rustle of leaves, the quiet hum of electricity from the lamps. Everything felt balanced, like a quiet song made of small, ordinary sounds. There was a park a few blocks away, and I decided to walk there on the way. I passed by small houses with gardens. Some windows were open and I could hear quiet voices, laughter, or the sound of plates being washed. These little pieces of life felt comforting, small lights of warmth in the cool evening. The air smelled faintly of rain, even though the sky was clear. Maybe it was just the coolness of the night mixing with the scent of trees and soil. I breathed deeply, feeling the freshness fill my chest. My thoughts began to move slowly, gently, like the clouds that drifted across the darkening sky. When I reached the park, the gates were still open. The lamps inside were dimmer than the ones on the street, their light softer and more golden. The path was covered with small leaves that rustled quietly under my feet. I walked along the path, and the trees around me formed a kind of green tunnel. Their branches moved slightly in the breeze, making soft whispers. Somewhere far away, I could hear the sound of water, maybe the small fountain in the center of the park. There were benches along the path, empty and peaceful. I chose one under a large oak tree and sat down. The wood felt cool under my hands. From here, I could see a small part of the street through the trees, glowing faintly with the lights of passing cars. I leaned back and looked up between the branches. Pieces of sky showed through, dark blue with tiny stars beginning to shine. The moon was not yet high, just a soft silver line on the edge of the clouds. The air was full of night sounds now, the quiet buzz of insects, the soft chirp of crickets, the distant rhythm of the city far beyond. For a while I just sat there, listening. It felt as if the world was breathing with me. Slow, deep, calm. The longer I stayed, the more the noise of the day disappeared from my mind. All the small worries that had filled my thoughts during work slowly faded away. I thought about how often we forget to notice evenings like this. The quiet, the air, the gentle light. We hurry, run from one place to another, always looking for something. But here now there was nothing to find, because everything I needed already existed in this simple peace. The fountain sound grew clear as the wind changed direction. It was soft, rhythmic water falling, breaking, and joining again. It reminded me of time, how it moves in circles, repeating and renewing itself endlessly. I stood up and began to walk deeper into the park. The path curved slightly and the light from the lamps drew thin lines across the ground. The trees on both sides were tall and silent, their leaves catching bits of light and shadow. I could smell the earth. Damp, cool, real. There was a small pond ahead, and I went there. The surface of the water reflected the lamps and the faint stars. Moving slightly with the breeze, I watched how the reflections trembled, disappeared, and came back again. Everything seemed both still and alive at the same time. The cool air touched my face again, and I felt a quiet happiness, not excitement, not joy, just a soft contentment, like being exactly where I should be. I walked around the pond once and then found another bench. I sat again and listened to the sounds of night more carefully somewhere nearby. A small branch broke under a step. Maybe a cat or a hedgehog moving through the grass. A car passed on the street far away, its sound soft and short. The park smelled now of night, of leaves, soil, and air mixed with the faint sweetness of flowers. It was a scent I could never describe completely, but it always made me feel peaceful. The longer I stayed, the more my thoughts quieted. There were no plans, no regrets, no questions. Just a calm awareness of being alive in this moment. I thought about how the day had been full of noise, decisions, screens, and people. And now, the silence felt like a gift. Sometimes I think the night teaches us to listen. Not with our ears, but with something deeper. The world doesn't disappear when it gets dark. It just speaks in a quieter voice. I looked at the pond again. A few small ripples moved across it where something touched the surface. The reflection of a lamp stretched and broke into soft lines. The scene felt almost unreal, like a painting that moved with breath. When I finally stood up, the air felt cooler. The moon had risen higher now, a white circle above the trees, its light mixed with the warm glow of the lamps, turning everything into shades of silver and gold. The shadows on the path looked soft, almost like fabric. I began walking back slowly, retracing my steps through the park. The leaves whispered again, and I felt that strange but beautiful feeling of being both alone and completely connected to everything. As I left the park, I looked once more at the gate behind me. It stood quietly, half covered in climbing plants. The night beyond it was deep and still. The streets were emptier now, most windows were dark, though a few still glowed softly, people reading, watching, talking quietly before bed. The sound of my steps echoed lightly on the pavement. There was something beautiful about this ordinary neighborhood at night. The streetlights formed small islands of light, and between them the darkness was soft, not empty, but full of quiet presence. The cool air brushed my hands, and I felt completely awake and calm. I passed a small bakery. Even though it was closed, the smell of bread still floated in the air, warm and comforting. It mixed with the fresh night wind and reminded me of simple, good things, warmth, food, home. As I turned a corner, I saw a cat sitting on a fence. It looked at me with bright, calm eyes, then slowly turned its head towards something invisible in the distance. I smiled quietly and walked on. My street appeared again ahead. Familiar, peaceful, with trees standing like quiet gods along the sidewalk. The lamps made their leaves shine faintly, and a small breeze moved them gently. I could hear the faint sound of a train far away, like a soft echo of the world beyond the city. I slowed down my steps, not wanting the walk to end too soon. There was something special about these last moments outside. The cool air, the rhythm of walking, the feeling of balance between movement and stillness. When I reached my building, I stopped for a moment. I looked up at the windows, most of them dark. One or two still lit. The sky above was deeper now, full of quiet stars. I breathed in the night one more time, trying to remember the feeling of it. The peace, the clarity, the quiet strength it carried. Inside, the hallway felt warmer. I climbed the stairs slowly, my steps soft. When I entered my apartment, it felt calm again, but in a new way, like the silence had changed shape and followed me inside. I opened the window wide and let the cool night air come in. The city lights outside shone softly, reflected in the glass. Somewhere below, a car passed quietly, its sound fading quickly. I turned off most of the lights and sat by the window. The air moved gently through the room. I could still hear the faint rhythm of the world, faraway sound, soft and distant.
It's strange how a simple evening walk can change everything inside you. The body moves, but the mind becomes still. The world outside slows down, and you begin to feel part of it, part of the quiet, part of the night. I thought about the trees, the pond, the reflections, the stars. I thought about how peace isn't something we find, but something that returns when we stop running. The night outside deepened. The lamps shone quietly. The sky darkened into soft black. The moon moved higher, painting silver lines across rooftops. I stayed by the window for a while, watching, breathing, feeling the cool air touched my face again, gentle as a whisper. The world seemed endless, yet close enough to touch. When I finally stood up, I felt light, as if the walk had washed away all the noise of the day. My mind was quiet, my body calm. I turned off the last light and went to bed. Through the open window, I could still hear the soft hum of the city, a sound full of life, but peaceful too. And as I closed my eyes, I thought of the simple truth the evening had shown me. Peace doesn't live far away. It waits for us outside the door, under the quiet sky, in the sound of our own footsteps.